We're excited to have with us today, all the way from Silicon Valley, Tiffine Wang, venture capitalist at MS&AD Ventures, an early-stage venture fund backed by Japanese insurer MS&AD. Named as one of the emerging leaders in corporate venture capital and inspiring fintech female, who better than Tiffine to explore the transformative power of AI, its impact on business models and driving industry innovation. Please welcome Tiffine Wang.
Hi everyone, how are you guys doing? Second to the last session. I'm surprised there's still so many people here. How many of you in here are actually working for the carriers? Some folks. How many of you are VCs? And how about entrepreneurs? How about everybody else? What's everybody else doing? I'm Tiffine Wang. I am from Silicon Valley, and today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about investing into AI solutions. And I am backed by one of the largest Japanese insurance carriers out there. A little bit about my background. I have been doing tech scouting for large corporates for a long time. I spent a lot of time learning about new technologies and figuring out how to integrate and have it work with large conglomerates. Of course, one of the most popular topics is AI. AI has been around for a very long time. Part of my job is to invest in disruptive business models. So insurance has been around for a really long time. And MS&AD, I joined them about 5 years ago, and they said, we want you to go and find early-stage companies that has interesting, unique data sets that could potentially touch risk. Because fundamentally, we think insurance of the future might be a little bit different. And so far, we've invested in about 100 portfolio companies, over 100 portfolio companies that are doing different things all over the world, except Japan. So there's a very big differences between venture capital and the insurance world. In venture capital, I'm looking for very high risk, going after really, really big markets, and things that are very fast growth. What I've learned was insurance was a little bit the opposite. Both are very smart people, but they like a certain profile of risk, not too much. They want to show steady growth, and they don't actually really like tech too much. The first time I went to Insurtech Insights, I was introducing myself, and they put me in the IT vendor bucket. So in venture capital, I tend to spend a lot of time in the area of applied AI. So what that means is, instead of the infrastructure, the tools that are building AI solutions, I focus a lot more on the actual uses of AI. So taking a step back, I want to give you a little bit of background about AI. AI got started around the 1950s. Alan Turing created the Turing test. Very, very simple concept. When you're talking to a machine or a computer, can you actually tell can you tell the difference between whether it's a human or not? A couple of years later, in the 1980s, as more funding went into it, they came up with something very simple: rule-based AI. Rule-based AI is very simple. If I asked a robot to say hello every time I say hi, it says hello. Very simple, right? Not all that interesting, but this was state of the art at some point. But there's some limitations with these. Can't really handle complex situations. More money and more research went to it, and then you have machine learning. Machine learning is just a subset of artificial intelligence. And what machine learning does that's a little bit different than the rule-based is you don't actually have to tell it what to do. You put in some data, and it starts learning on its own. And this becomes more and more interesting and complex. It wasn't that long ago that AI can't even recognize an image. It was really hot a few years ago. I remember when I was covering it. Have you guys heard of the hot dog, not a hot dog app? That's all it did. You take a picture, and it'll tell you whether it's a hot dog or not. That was AI. That was the coolest thing. I remember being so excited that a computer can do this. Now it can recognize all of you all at the same time, even how old you are. And then the next generation of it is deep learning. Deep learning is just another subset of machine learning. It's a more complex model. Deep learning mimics how a human mind works. What's really interesting about this is as these algorithms become more and more complex, you can start doing a lot of different things. Give you an example of autonomous vehicles. I've been covering autonomous vehicles for a really long time. But it was a lot of disappointments over time before it actually turned into what a working autonomous vehicle today. There was challenges with connectivity. The connectivity wasn't quite there yet. And then there was the sensors. The cost of the sensors were too high, so we had to wait for the cost of the sensors to come down. And then there was the AI, which took time for it to advance, as well as the computing power. All that has to come together for something like autonomous vehicles to work. Some of the same things needed to happen with AI. And the latest generation is generative AI, which is a subset of deep learning. This is all the buzz right now, right? Everyone is talking about generative AI and all the things that it can do. It's going to transform everything. But generative AI also has its limitations. But there's a lot of really great iterations and developments. So I'm pretty sure all of you have been using the different language models, the LLMs, the Bard, Pi, Claude. They all have slightly different personalities. Why do you think that is? The reason why it's different is because of the data that it's being put into it. If you look at something like Bard, which is backed by Google, they have a lot more factual data. So if you want to look up things that are more factual, you go and look at that. ChatGPT uses very wide range of data, right? So some of the information that you're being pulled over there may or may not be true. So let's jump into a couple of examples of applied AI. So almost all of our portfolio companies are using some form of AI or not. We just expect them to be using it. So with a lot of the incumbents, they're trying to figure out how to use it. But the portfolio companies have a completely different foundation. I'm not waiting for them to try it. They're already using it. A lot of the team members already know how to use AI. And a lot of our companies do that. So when you apply that to insurance, which is one of the categories that we invest in, some of our portfolio companies are not even using underwriters. We do also have tools, such as Artificial, that supports underwriters. He's actually in the room somewhere today. He's over there if you want to meet with them. We're also investors in Armilla. Armilla is insurance for AI models. So as you evolved and you're working on building your own models, there's actually an insurance solution for it. But at the end of the day, AI ends up touching a lot of different aspects. Look at education. I'm someone who has ADHD. While I did well in school, it was extremely difficult to learn because there was only one way of learning. Now, because of new technology and AI, you can actually customize education to fit a lot of different people. It's not just our children now. With the world moving so fast, all of us need to be reskilling and retooling ourselves. How about retail? I can guarantee you that the stores know more about you than your spouse. Because your cell phone, all that information around you is collecting data on you, wanting to understand who you are. It's also really great for healthcare. All this information and data being collected is improving the way we're getting treatment. But now that AI touches everything, do you think the carriers and the underwriters are actually ready to handle all this AI? I don't think so. A lot of our policies are covering some of the potential impacts, but it doesn't cover AI specifically. So there are some things that we really need to take a pause and really spend some time to think through, because it's impacting our lives today. Such as AI, it has bias and discrimination. But the reason is not necessarily someone tried to program it, it's just all the data that goes into it, and you might not have enough data on one thing, so it spits out something else. For example, often when you say a CEO, you get a picture of a man, right? There's just more male CEOs in general. So these biases are influencing us to make decisions. We can maybe pause on that and consider that for one instance, but what if it's over several different instances, touching many different aspects of our lives? It can become a very negative impact. There's been a lot of disinformation. I'm actually, myself, consuming a lot less content. The reason is because a lot of the content online is no longer real. You can go out there and you can write an article almost instantaneously and put anything you want on there. So now there's so much noise. You don't even know what's real or fake. But this is really impacting our children. It's impacting our friends. It's impacting our grandparents. And of course, the deep fakes. Everyone, I think we've heard about the story about the CFO who paid out $25 million. Maybe it took the hackers a couple of months to make. $25 million payout is a pretty good payout for them. It's impacting the companies, the insurance policies. These are real impacts, whether we want to look at it or not. And what I've heard is, unfortunately, they're targeting elderly. These are our grandparents that's being hit using these type of solutions. These are very real impacts of AI on our daily lives, on the people that we really care about. And another really big thing is the pure processing power, the energy that's required to process all this data. But each of the problems that come up is also another opportunity. Opportunity to solve another problem. So as a carrier, as insurance innovators, how do you stay ahead? One of the most important things is start leveraging the AI. AI is really great for augmenting your abilities. Start tinkering it, playing with it every day, integrating it as part of your lives. One way or another, it's going to become part of your day-to-day. It's either whether you're going to be in control or it's going to be in control. For your large carriers, I do recommend building for scalability. A lot of times in the insurance industry, you kind of push this to IT and IT. One of the problems when you push it away is you have less control over the IT. So fundamentally, you have to consider what type of company do you want to be? Do you really want to be AI enabled? Do you want to be able to tinker and change things yourself? So bringing some of that talent in-house is something that might be worth considering. And then, of course, since you're in control, the ethics and regulations are a very important consideration. And, of course, being on the court. So one of the things that we have is we're building out a AI networking group across a bunch of executives, VCs, and entrepreneurs. If you're interested, please go ahead and send me an email or find me on LinkedIn. We'll drop you into the group. Thank you.